President Trump is back in Mar-a-Lago today after a quick trip to New York to ring the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Tomorrow he'll be in Maryland for the Army-Navy football game. And in 5 weeks, he'll be on the steps of the Capitol being sworn into office as the nation's 47th president. Now, inauguration is a celebration of American democracy. And this year, Trump is hoping for a more global event. CNN's Kristen Holmes joins me now from West Palm Beach, Florida. So, Kristen, what are you hearing about these plans?
Yeah, Manu, it's unsurprising that Donald Trump wants a more global event and that he and his team are essentially reaching out directly to these foreign leaders. This is a little bit unprecedented. It's not how it usually works. Foreign leaders don't generally attend the inauguration, but we are told that Donald Trump has had these informal conversations where he's asking foreign leaders to come to the inauguration. Among them, probably the most notable is China's Xi Jinping. We are told that he is likely not to come. He's going to send a delegation instead, but also the Prime Minister of Italy, the presidents of Argentina and El Salvador. All of these people have received some sort of outreach, whether it be from the president himself directly or from his team, with an invitation to come down here. Again, unclear who's going to come. You we are told that a lot of these conversations are happening kind of in passing, that Donald Trump might be on the phone with one of these world leaders and mention at the end, why don't you come to the inauguration? Or when he was in France at Notre Dame, the reopening there, that he was having conversations with these leaders and it might have come up there as well. In fact, some of these conversations are so informal that even his closest aides weren't sure who Donald Trump had invited to the inauguration. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of how it usually goes, again, foreign leaders don't generally attend. Instead, this bipartisan committee that plans the inauguration, they reach out to diplomats with the State Department, and that's who ends up coming. But Donald Trump, he wants it to be more of a global affair. He, of course, wants the fanfare. None of that is surprising, knowing the former president, now president-elect. But we'll wait and see how this actually plays out, since, again, much of this is unprecedented.
All right, Kristen Holmes from West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you so much. And joining me now, an excellent group of reporters to break this all down. CNN's Jeff Zeleny, Marianne Levine of The Washington Post, Zolan Khanna-Youngs of The New York Times, and CNN's Lauren Fox. Nice to see you all. Glad you can join us. Jeff, you've covered many inaugurations over your time. You're a veteran. You're very youthful. No commentary about your age or my age. But what do you think of the way Donald Trump is trying to make this different than what we've seen in the past?
Look, I mean, this is just one more example of the ways that he knows how it works the first time, so he's operating slightly different the second time. I'm just struck by the second time around. I was thinking back to 8 years ago. I was looking at his travel schedule. He was still doing these victory rallies. He went from battleground to battleground to battleground, sort of basking in the glow of his supporters. No more. I mean, he has barely been seen in public, which has actually been pretty extraordinary. Yesterday, he was at the stock exchange. But what he's doing is he is allowing foreign leaders to sort of come to him through phone calls and things. But he is really, basking in a different kind of glow this time around. I'd be surprised if there are any major foreign leaders at the inauguration. There are a lot of foreign leaders like Xi Jinping, first among them, who probably don't want to be at the center of a democratic inauguration. It's just sort of not their thing. But for Donald Trump, he clearly is extending these invitations. But a little bigger picture here, I think the whole inauguration, I'm thinking back to the first day in the briefing room, it seems like a million years ago. John Spicer, the biggest crowd ever. Who knows? Maybe it will be this time. But I do think that there's a bit more confidence, I guess, coming from the Trump team this time around, largely because he knows the rules of the game this time. People are falling into place. This is his Republican Party. It was not 8 years ago.
No question about it. It's also, Jeff makes an interesting point about how Donald Trump has chosen not to really be seen here in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I'll see how long it lasts. Of course, Donald Trump loves the spotlight, but maybe that's one reason why polls show that people are looking more favorably at the way that he's handling the transition, because he's letting it mostly happen and avoiding the kind of controversies or bombast like he did the last time.
Yeah, I think he's been pretty quiet, and I think we kind of see that, especially in how he's approaching his cabinet nominees. Like, we really have not heard a lot about Trump and how he feels about his cabinet nominees. He put out a post on Truth Social last week about Pete Hegseth amid the controversies that he's facing. But he has been very quiet. He has been pretty out of sight. He has the Army-Navy game tomorrow, but really we have not gotten much of a sense of what he's really doing outside of just spending time at Mar-a-Lago and meeting with people and making phone calls.
It's contained thus far in Mar-a-Lago. You talk to reporters that are out in West Palm Beach, they're not seeing that much. There's not a lot to be done because of the lack of movement. It's basically the president-elect surrounded by these advisors that he have, ranging from an Elon Musk to some of the people that were around the first time around. And I think what's extraordinary is, within Mar-a-Lago, just how ad hoc some of these calls are that they're making, both the vetting, but also calls to foreign leaders. It can't be emphasized enough. Usually there'd be a situation where it's a bit more organized. State Department is informed, about any call to, a foreign leader. They provide resources as well, and that way, the current administration, current government that's still responsible for foreign policy actually can be kept on the loop on what these foreign leaders are saying. Yeah. That's not happening right now. We have an extraordinary situation where the sitting government at times does not know what the incoming president is saying to some of these foreign leaders, and if any, what agreements are being made.
Tom Pointley would not say if he'd spoken to Putin in that interview that was just published. That's one of the questions. Did some of these things happen in these private channels that would not go through the typical diplomatic
But it's
channels?
unclear why it's inappropriate to talk about Putin, but it is appropriate to say that he's calling a Xi Jinping.
Yeah, right.
So that really, it really raises the question.
No question. And so let's talk about some of the nominees, of course, and how the transition is going with them, some of these critical picks to the post, including Pete Hegseth, of course, who's come under a lot of controversy over allegations of past misconduct, excessive drinking, sexual assault. He denied all those. This is from a Fox News poll, as you can see on your screen. Would you vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, as the question asked to voters? 31% say yes, 40% say no. Still a sizable amount, though. 29% of the public just have not heard of him or don't know who he is. Lauren, you're up on the Hill every day with me talking to members. What are you hearing about his prospects right now? And right now it's been Republicans other than John Fetterman, who he's met with. What are they saying about him in these meetings?
Yeah, what I've heard over and over again is he has sort of these dual audiences. He has sort of the public vision that he is trying to portray strength, and he's trying to sort of show to Trump he's out there fighting. But behind closed doors, he's being very careful with senators. He's being deferential, he's being serious, he's having conversations where he's taking their questions head on, but also sort of showing that he knows some Pentagon policy. This is someone who's on TV. He knows how to study. He knows how to speak gracefully about certain topics. He's a quick study on a lot of things. And that is showing, according to senators that we are talking to.
And Trump did not want to back off of Hegseth, because if he did, there was a fear that it would turn into a feeding frenzy. And then the Senate Republicans may go after RFK Jr., go after Tulsi Gabbard and the like, try to push back after Gates went down.
I mean, that's been remarkable, and I think he's not doing a lot of it himself, but he doesn't need to in some respects, because this, again, is his Republican Party now. I mean, just look at some of these senators who are up in 2026. They are feeling the pressure from outside, but the former president, the president-elect, is just right behind, all of this online activity. He's certainly blessing it, if not doing it himself.
Another one, of course, RFK Jr. We've not seen him on Capitol Hill. Pete Hegseth has done a lot of Republican meetings. We've started to see Tulsi Gabbard. She's come up. Many other nominees have been making the rounds, but not RFK Jr. He'll be up there next week. This is a question from that same Fox News poll about RFK Jr. 48% of the public say yes, they would vote for him. 43% say no. Just 9% have not heard from him. Of course, the Kennedy name means a lot to American voters, as you can see, well known among the American public. But then there's also the controversy about all of his views, including this new report from the New York Times today about RFK Jr. aide who has sought to revoke the approval of the polio vaccine. As you can see there from the Times report, one of the questions that will undoubtedly come out. By the way, Mitch McConnell was a polio survivor at a young age. We'll see how he ultimately votes on this critical nomination.
Yeah, it's been interesting. When I was up on the Hill last week, I was talking to a Republican senator, and they were talking about the different nominees, and that senator mentioned that after Hegseth, they thought that RFK would actually be a tough person to confirm. I think it's really interesting to see what his standing is like in the Republican Party, obviously a former Democrat, but I was looking at one of the polls today, and it showed that 6 in 10 Republicans want to see RFK confirmed. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how uphill of a battle he has and whether his views on vaccines are something that Republican senators are going to bring up. It feels like right now a lot of people are keeping their cards close to the vest.
They are, but there's also issues too: abortion, food policy, and the like that could become problematic.
Yeah, there's a cross current of issues for him in a way that there aren't for other nominees, right? You have questions about whether or not lawmakers start to hear from ag in their state, whether they start to hear from pharma in their state. All of those cross currents can start to chip away at your support, and it only takes just a handful of Republicans to mean that any one of these nominees sinks.